Sawubona, which is isiZulu for hello, by the way, if you don't know that, if you're watching from somewhere other than South Africa. I grew up in KwaZulu-Natal, where most of the Zulu peoples are living, and so I grew up with Zulu being spoken around, English and Zulu, not much or any Afrikaans. But anyway, this is not an educational video. This is a sort of rainy, chilly day in Hermanus, Western Cape, and I'm feeling in quite a reflective mood. I think I've been painting since April, I think it is, and we're now into July. I'm not quite sure what date it is, because with this malarkey painting, time time has no meaning. It has no, I don't know, I've fallen in love with this, and I wake up in the morning and all I want to do is paint, and I do. And I went shopping this afternoon because I had to. I had a crust left for lunch, on which I had fish paste, but I needed to go and get some food in. So you just lose track of time with this, and lunch gets forgotten about, and I don't go to the loo, and I forget to drink water, which I'm usually pretty good at, and I just get lost in my previous video, I think I was about halfway through this latest work of mine. I think I've done, I'm not sure, in the late teens, maybe 20 in the three and a half months I've been painting. I'm not quite sure. And it was all very, it just, I keep on thinking I'm going to paint whirly, swirly, using, I don't have it here at the moment, it's drying out, but one of those granny loofah things, and a steel sponge, steel scourer thing to clean pots with, and I've yet to sort of, I did use the, I did use the loofah thing for this yellow mark around here, but I was about halfway through this, and it was all very mannered and linear and blocky, and it's not what I want to do, but I found myself doing it, probably because I'm learning how to paint, and don't really know what I'm doing. Just loving the process of doing it, mixing paint, applying paint to canvas with brushes, but mostly sponges, and then scratching through them with forks and toothpicks and goodness knows what else, whatever I can find, lay my hands on. I just love all of this. But anyway, so that's an update. That's finished. That's my latest one I've done on a canvas that I bartered some sketching pencils for. It had already been painted, and it was sort of like rows of black dots on a white background. That was very mannered indeed. But I decided to leave one of the black dots and obviously paint it over in white. Hang on, I've just had a Guardian. It gets rid of itself, I forget that. So it was all very mannered, and then I thought, no, I need to break lines, and I need to break my own rules, if you like. Not that I'm aware of any rules, but break all these lines. So done this orange thing here, which may be a horse, I'm not sure. So much more interesting, and I'm actually quite pleased with the outcome. It's all very subjective. I'm not sure it's my best work, but it feels quite personal, this one. And I won't go into any detail, but I think it's about my last relationship with somebody I still love. Yeah, I'm not really here to do any painting or talk about what I've been painting, but I've been, as I've sort of immersed myself deeper and deeper into painting and learning with the help of some YouTube videos on how it's done. I'm still not using brushes correctly. I'm still not absolutely sure what each brush should be used for, what mark you want to make. But I just use, and I found out, which is probably everybody's experience. But I've been wondering where, I had this urge to paint, and I've had it for quite a long time, but my through-glass photography was my creative outlet, and that was a never-ending source of fascination for me. So when the magic popped up, photographing through patterned glass, i.e. bathroom window glass pieces that I collected, vases, anything. And then I just got into, I moved into a bigger space, a place that I absolutely love. So it all just lent itself to starting to paint. And I've been sort of wondering, people have said to me, what got you into painting? Why are you painting? And I said to him, well, I've never had an art class in my life, except for in class 1 with crayons, drawing cows in a field with a tree and a sun and a little river, maybe, rather badly. And I used to go to art galleries when I lived in London and when I travelled abroad, Madrid, Rome, whatever. And I've always been drawn to abstract art. But then I remembered a friend of my mother's when I was about 15, and I'm going to be very candid here. My parents were going through a bit of a rocky stage, which was unusual for them, and I still don't know all the details, and I don't really need to know. They got over it, but they were going through a rough patch, and my mum was looking for some guidance. I think she felt very lonely. I was 15, my sister 12, and the next thing, she was going next door to a woman who lived next door, who I saw a few times. I was caught up in my 15-year-old world at the time, sport, school, whatever. Saw a couple of times wearing colourful kaftans, and I thought, she's interesting, very unusual. I was living in we were actually living in Escort, more inland from Pietermaritzburg, where I grew up, for about a year and a half. It was a very strange time, actually. But next thing, Mum was disappearing once or twice a week next door, and I said to my dad, what's Mum doing next door? Because I knew the woman there was rather unusual. She was Bohemian, that's all it was, but I didn't know much about that at the time. And he said, very disapprovingly, she's talking to some strange people about, I don't know what they're doing, they're calling on the spirit world or something, and he sort of pulled a face and didn't say any more. Anyway, one day I got my chance to sort of investigate, and I asked my mum, and she was going to seances. And my mum was, perhaps I would say that just the loveliest, kindest, nicest, gentlest person in the world who knew me better than anybody, and I take some knowing. I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but and I was an outsider, very much aloof from my. Didn't make friends easily at school. Anyway, not about that. And I said to her, "Well, what are seances?" And she described them to me, and and I was fascinated. This was a world I had no knowledge of, and kind of left it like that. And I sort of looked at my mum in a slightly different way after that, because she looked like anybody's mum, really. Nicely dressed, quite prim and proper looking. But there was always another deeper side to her. But I didn't know much about that at that time, and didn't really, I was just wanted to play sport. But then she started going to see a spiritualist woman, a medium, looking for guidance and support and something to make sense of what she was going through. And she told me a couple of things that she was amazed by, that came from Doris. Her name was Doris. Doris Patterson. And she went quite a few times, and I was asking her questions. I wanted to know more and more and more about it. It was a totally new world. And she said, "Would you like to come and see Doris?" So I said, "How do you mean?" She said, "Well, have a reading with her." And this is a bit strange. I wonder what it's going to be all about. But I said, "Yeah, well, why not?" So she arranged it, and she drove me around there to Doris's house. And on the way there, she said, "By the way, Doris lives with another woman." And I said, "Oh, where's their husbands?" Naive. I was 15, but we're talking about in the 60s, 70s, early 70s, whatever. Or like I had quite a sheltered life until then. So she said, "Oh no, she's got a friend that she lives with." I didn't know. I think it was a lot more than that. Now I think about it. But anyway, went inside. Mum walked me to the door and introduced me to Doris, lovely little lady, also prim and proper, didn't look anything different from most women you saw. Sort of grey hair and a bun type. And I went inside the house, and going to the room where we were going to do the reading, I saw a big room, looked into a big room, and I just saw these big wild abstract paintings. And I said to Mrs. Patterson, as I called her at the time, I said, "Mrs. Whose art is that?" And she said, "Oh, my friend, Sue. She does those paintings." So I said, "Oh, they're amazing. I love them." And I had no knowledge of art then. Didn't do an art class at school ever. It wasn't a part of the curriculum. Had to do accountancy and geometrical drawing or whatever, woodwork, boy stuff. I said, "Oh, no, they're amazing." So she says, "Yeah, she paints to music. She listens to classical music while she paints." That just made it even more intriguing for me. And I'll never forget those. I saw them I stopped and had a good look at them on the way out. Sue wasn't there, unfortunately. I'd love to have seen her. But since anyway, Doris told me some amazing things about myself that have proven true over the years. Don't have to go into all that. But I've since built up a bit of a picture of Sue Ponton, who was well known, quite well known. My mum used to go to Art in the Park, and that's as close as we got in Pietermaritzburg. Closest we got to me being exposed to art. And This is taking a very long time, but I love the story, and I hope you do too. And next time it'll be about painting, or messing up painting, or doing something quite good. But and Sue used to exhibit her paintings at Art in the Park, where people used to gather around the sports fields next to the river, under the trees. I remember it was always held in autumn, so the floor, the ground was just covered in leaves, and I think I used to kick a ball around in the leaves while Mum looked at the art. I'm talking about when I was younger, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 or whatever. But Sue's paintings left a big impression on me, and they were wild, really wild abstracts, and that's sort of what I'm thinking I'm wanting to do, but I don't know. I'm sort of beginning to find my style with this, and who knows? I might end up doing mad whirls and splatters, and that's the exciting thing. I don't know where this journey is going to end, or where it's truly going to begin. But somebody told me that they remembered Sue Ponton, an artist friend of mine told me that she remembered Sue Ponton had a studio in Long Market Street in Pietermaritzburg, and she was often seen next door with the art supply shop, wearing paint splattered overalls and chain smoking, and talking 10 to the dozen to the staff and the person behind the counter from whom she bought her paints and canvases, I imagine. And she was a huge character. And now I find I've just got that locked in my memory, her paintings. And of course, both her and Doris have passed away. I mean, the last time I saw Doris was in Plymouth in England. When I was living in London, and I needed some guidance, and took the train down. Found out she had moved back to Plymouth, I think after Sue had died, and she was living in Plymouth. And I went down there for a weekend and booked into a room above a pub or something, and went to see her and had a lovely reading with her. And she was pretty old then, and then I got my life back on course, and I didn't go back again, and I'm sure she's passed away. So, and now I have music on when I paint, most often jazz, but often classical, and sometimes the sort of, Pink Floyd, Neil Young, Leonard Cohen, all different genres. Sometimes that, but mostly jazz. Because I think what I'm doing here is improvisational. I don't know, but what I do know is that I sit down and, for example, I had this black dot, and then I haven't used pink. Once I used pink in one of my paintings, and that was by accident, when red mixed with white on the canvas without my help. It's not a favourite colour of mine. I love red, not so fond of pink, but I challenged myself to start with pink. But I really thought I was, going to do a swirly-whirly, keeps coming to mind, esoteric sort of painting, wild, like Sue's. But then I find I'm making all these lines, vertical, horizontal, like that. You can see that. Well, I've gone back and just put a blue line through it, because I want to go a bit crazy with it. But what happens is, I find painting so meditative. I've got lovely music coming through from the lounge area. and I just lose myself in it, and I start doing things without thinking about it. And I really should be I think I should be thinking about what I'm doing because I'm learning. I don't know very much. I'm learning all the time, but it sort of becomes intuitive. You know, and 2 hours later, I sort of snap out of it, and I sit back and I think, oh, that's awful. Or actually, that's got some potential. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you the story about Sue Ponton. May her soul rest in peace, because she was a source of inspiration and a little snapshot that I've carried from the age of 15. And wish I could have a chat with her. But yeah, painting to music. Two of my great loves. I want to do it till I kick the rusty old bucket. I think that's enough, more than enough for now. I hope you got something out of this. Next time we'll focus more on the paints and the canvas side of things, shall we? Hambagashile. Go well in isiZulu. Since I started off speaking a little bit of Zulu, I've got